Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Business English for Success. I'm Elena.
And I'm Mark.
Today, we're going to take you through a business meeting in English, from the moment you join to the moment you leave.
So we'll look at what you can actually say when you enter the meeting, when you want to speak, when you need to ask a question, give an opinion, disagree, respond when someone asks you something unexpectedly, and help the group move toward a decision.
And we'll also look at something people often forget, what to say before the meeting ends, so everyone is clear about who is doing what and what happens next.
The English itself doesn't need to be complicated. In fact, in most meetings, shorter and clearer is usually better.
Exactly. The difficult part is often knowing what to say at the right moment.
And later, once we've gone through those moments, they'll put the language into 3 natural workplace conversations.
So you'll hear how people actually use it when they're giving updates, discussing different opinions, making decisions, and agreeing on next steps.
All right, your meeting is about to start.
Let's go in.
Let's start before anyone is discussing deadlines or projects. You've just joined the meeting. What do you actually say?
Usually not very much.
Which is good news.
Very good news. If you walk into a meeting room, something as simple as "Morning, everyone," "Hi, everyone," or "Good morning," "How's everyone doing?" is completely natural.
You don't need to walk in sounding like you're opening an international conference.
Please don't.
Distinguished colleagues, thank you for allowing me to join you today.
Mark, if you say that at our Monday morning meeting, I'm leaving.
Fair enough. But that's actually an important point. Sometimes business English learners feel that because it's a business meeting, every sentence has to sound formal.
And most of the time, it doesn't. Professional English can still be very normal English. Morning, everyone. That's enough.
And if it's an online meeting, you'll probably hear slightly different language.
Right. You might join and say, "Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?"
And someone says, "Yes, we can hear you."
Or the classic online meeting sentence, "Sorry, I was on mute."
Possibly the most international business English sentence ever created.
Very possibly. You might also hear, "Can everyone see my screen?" "Your screen isn't showing yet." Or, "You're breaking up a little."
And notice how ordinary all of that English is.
Yes, at this point, your job is simply to arrive, connect, and be ready for the meeting.
What if there are people in the meeting you haven't met before?
Then a short introduction is useful. For example, "Hi, I'm Alina. I work with the operations team." Or, "Hi, I'm Alina. I'm responsible for the reporting side of the project."
Would you give your whole job history?
No, they don't need my life story before the agenda.
Good. So name, team, and maybe your connection to the meeting?
"Hi, I'm Elena. I'm working with the finance team on this project." That immediately tells everyone why I'm there.
And if someone introduces themselves to you, your response can be very simple. "Nice to meet you." Or, "Good to meet you."
So already, before the meeting has even started, we have something useful to remember. Business English doesn't mean making simple moments complicated.
Especially because the difficult part is still coming.
You mean the actual meeting?
Unfortunately, yes.
All right, everyone is here. What happens next? Well, if you're leading the meeting, you need to get everyone moving in the same direction. And you can do that very simply. "Okay, shall we get started?"
I use that one a lot.
Me too. Or, "Thanks for joining, everyone. Let's get started."
And then people need to know why they're there.
You could say, "Today, we need to go over the project timeline." Or, "Today, we're going to review the latest sales numbers." Or, "The main thing we need to decide today is whether we're ready to move forward."
I really like that last one.
Why?
Because it tells me the outcome the meeting needs. If you say, the main thing we need to decide today is whether we're ready to move forward, I immediately know this isn't just an update meeting. We need a decision.
But that sentence wouldn't fit every meeting. If this is just our regular weekly update, I might say, let's go through the main updates from this week.
Or let's quickly go around and see where everything stands.
Yes. And if there are several things to discuss, we have 3 things to cover today. Then you can name them.
So the language changes slightly depending on what the meeting is for.
Right. Are we here to share updates, solve a problem, review something, make a decision, plan the next step?
And you don't necessarily need to be the person leading the meeting to pay attention to this language.
Definitely not. Because if I hear, the main thing we need to decide today is, I now know what kind of contribution is going to be useful from me.
That's important. You're not only listening for English, you're listening for the job of the meeting.
There's another little moment that happens near the beginning. Someone may ask, does anyone have anything to add before we start?
And if you don't?
You can simply say, nothing from me. Or, no, I think we're good.
And if you do have something?
I have one quick item we should cover. Or, there's one thing I'd like to add.
Again, very simple.
It should be. The beginning of a meeting is not where I want learners spending all their mental energy.
Save some of that energy.
You're going to need it when everyone starts talking.
Because this is usually where the real problem begins.
The meeting has started. You understand the topic. Someone is giving an update. Someone else responds. Then another person starts talking.
And you have something useful to say.
But you wait.
Then you wait a little longer.
You're trying to build the perfect sentence.
And just when you're ready,
They move to the next topic.
That is the moment we need to fix. Because participating in a meeting isn't only about having good ideas. You need a way to get into the conversation while the conversation is still there.
And there are several ways to do that, depending on what you want to contribute. Maybe you want to add information. Maybe you want to ask a question. Maybe you disagree. Or maybe you just need to stop everyone for 10 seconds because something isn't clear.
So let's start with the simplest one. You have something useful to add. How do you get the floor and start speaking?
All right, you have something useful to say. The question is, how do you actually get into the conversation?
One of the easiest ways is, can I add something here?
Simple.
Very simple. And that's exactly why it works. You don't need to spend 5 seconds building an impressive opening. You just need a way into the conversation.
I'd probably make it even shorter sometimes. Can I add something?
Absolutely. Or, just to add to that, that works well when your point connects directly to what someone has just said.
Let's hear the difference. Suppose I say, we've had more customer complaints this month.
And I have some related information. I could say, just to add to that, we've also seen more requests for refunds.
That feels very natural because you're not starting a completely new topic.
Right, I'm building on your point, but maybe I have my own point to make. Then I might say, can I add something here? I think we also need to look at the response time.
So you don't need one perfect phrase for every meeting.
No. Think about what you're doing. Are you adding to someone's point? Just to add to that, do you simply want to enter? Can I add something here? Do you have a specific point? I have a quick point on that.
I use that last one quite a lot. I have a quick point on that. It tells people exactly why I'm coming in.
And the word quick helps too. It suggests, I'm not about to give you a 12-minute speech.
Always appreciated in a meeting.
Very much.
What about, can I jump in here? I hear that quite often.
Yes, that's natural too, especially in a more conversational meeting. Can I jump in for a second? But I probably wouldn't make that the first expression a learner needs.
Why not?
Because can I add something here works in a wider range of situations. It's easy, professional, and difficult to misuse.
Well, that's useful. We don't need 20 expressions that do almost the same job.
I'd rather have 3 expressions I can actually use tomorrow than 20 expressions I'm trying to remember while 6 people are talking.
Now, there's another problem. What if nobody gives you a nice, quiet moment to speak?
That happens, especially in a fast discussion.
Someone finishes and another person starts immediately.
In that case, you may need to enter a little more actively. You could say, "Sorry, can I come in here?" Or, "Can I jump in for a second?"
And sorry there doesn't necessarily mean you've done something wrong.
Right. It just softens the interruption. But listen to the tone. "Sorry, can I come in here?"
That sounds very different from, "Excuse me, I need to speak."
Please don't do that unless the building is on fire.
Noted.
There's also a very useful way to enter when you want to respond to one particular person. For example, on Mark's point about the deadline, then I continue with my idea.
That's especially useful when several things are being discussed.
Yes, because everyone immediately knows which point I'm responding to. On Mark's point about the deadline, I think we need another 2 days. Or on the question of cost, we may have another option.
That sounds more focused than simply saying, "I have something to say."
Much more focused.
But I think there's a bigger lesson here. The opening phrase is only the door.
You still need to walk through it.
So if I say, "Can I add something here?" I shouldn't spend the next 30 seconds trying to decide what my point is.
Right. Start with one clear idea. For example, "Can I add something here?" We're still waiting for approval from finance. That's already useful.
And then someone may ask, "When do you expect approval?"
And now we have a conversation. You don't have to prepare the entire conversation before you speak.
I think that's one of the biggest differences between speaking in a meeting and giving a presentation.
Definitely. In a presentation, you may prepare exactly what you want to say. In a meeting, you're responding to people in real time.
Which means sometimes you start speaking before you know exactly where the discussion will go.
And that's okay. Your first contribution might only be, "I have a quick question about the deadline."
Now we're moving into something different.
Yes, because you don't always enter a meeting discussion to give an opinion. Sometimes you enter because you need information.
Or because everyone else seems to understand something?
And you absolutely do not.
So what do you say then?
First, don't assume you need a complicated sentence. If I don't understand one point, I can simply say, "Sorry, could you explain that a little more?"
Or, what do you mean by final approval?
And I actually prefer that when you know exactly what is confusing you.
Because it gives the other person something specific to answer.
Right. Compare, "I don't understand," with, "When you say the project is on hold, do you mean we're stopping all work for now?"
Much easier to answer.
And much more useful for the meeting.
I use "just to clarify" quite a lot.
Me too. For example, "Just to clarify, are we still planning to launch on Monday?"
Or, just to clarify, do you need the final version today or tomorrow morning?
That phrase is especially useful when you think you understand, but you want to make sure.
Which happens constantly with dates, responsibilities, and decisions.
Yes, and those are exactly the things you don't want to misunderstand.
Here's another useful pattern. So, if I understand correctly,
Yes. So, if I understand correctly, We're keeping the original deadline, but we're reducing the scope.
That does two things. It checks your understanding,
And it gives the other person a chance to correct you immediately.
For example, no, actually, the scope is staying the same. We're moving the deadline.
Much better to discover that in the meeting than 3 days later.
What if the problem isn't understanding? You simply didn't hear the person.
Then say that. Sorry, I missed the last part. Could you say that again?
Very normal.
Or online. Sorry, you cut out for a second. Could you repeat that?
That one is useful.
Very. And again, don't pretend you heard something when you didn't.
Especially if what you missed was, and Mark will prepare the report by tomorrow.
Then tomorrow comes
And Mark has prepared absolutely nothing.
Because Mark was nodding confidently while his internet disappeared.
A completely hypothetical example.
Of course.
There's one situation I think people find uncomfortable. You understand the English words, but you don't understand why the person is asking the question.
That's a good one. For example, someone asks, "Can you send us the revised figures today?" And you're thinking, why today? What changed?
Exactly.
You can ask, "Can I ask what the revised figures are needed for?" Or, "Just so I understand, is this for the client meeting tomorrow?" I like "just so I understand."
So do I. It sounds natural and gives you the context you need before you answer.
And sometimes you need to ask someone to be more specific.
For example, your manager says, "We need to improve the report."
Very helpful.
Extremely specific. So instead of going away and guessing, you might ask, "Is there a particular part you'd like me to change?"
Or, when you say improve it, are you mainly concerned about the numbers or the presentation?
That is clarification doing real work. You're turning a vague instruction into something you can actually act on.
So there are really several different problems hiding inside "I don't understand."
Yes. Maybe you didn't hear. Maybe you don't understand a word or phrase. Maybe the instruction is too vague. Maybe you think you understand but want to confirm. Or maybe you need more context before you can answer.
And those need slightly different responses.
But notice that none of the English we've used is especially difficult. Could you explain that? What do you mean by, just to clarify? So if I understand correctly, could you repeat that? Is there a particular part you'd like me to change?
The value comes from choosing the right question for the moment.
And I think there's a workplace point here that's bigger than English.
Go on.
Some people stay quiet because they're worried that asking a question will make them look unprepared. But imagine, I don't understand whether a deadline is Thursday or Friday. I say nothing, I leave the meeting, and then I deliver the work on the wrong day.
That's a much bigger problem than asking, "Just to clarify, do you need this by Thursday or Friday?"
A clear question can prevent a very expensive misunderstanding.
But now let's make it harder.
I knew you would.
You understood the question perfectly. Your manager looks at you and says, "Where are we with the proposal?"
And suddenly, everyone is looking at you.
You don't have the exact number. You haven't finished checking the latest information. Or maybe you simply need a few seconds to think.
That is a completely different meeting problem because now you don't need clarification.
You need to respond without guessing, freezing, or pretending you know something you don't.
So let's talk about what to say when the question comes directly to you and you're not completely ready for it.
All right. Your manager looks at you and asks, "Where are we with the proposal?" What do you say?
Well, if I know the answer, I'd keep it simple. We're almost done. I'm just waiting for the final numbers from finance.
That's probably enough.
Usually, yes. I don't need to explain everything I've done since Monday.
That's important.
because when someone asks for an update in a meeting, they usually want to know where things stand now.
So a useful update often has two parts: where things are now and what happens next. For example, we've finished the first draft. I'm reviewing it this afternoon, and I'll send the final version tomorrow.
Or we're still waiting for the customer's feedback. Once we have that, we can complete the changes.
Right. And if there's a problem, say it. We're slightly behind schedule because we haven't received the final data yet.
That sounds much more useful than the project is in progress.
Yes. In progress tells me almost nothing. What's finished? What's still happening? Is anything blocking you? What happens next? You don't need to answer all four every time, but give people enough information to understand the situation.
Okay, but now I'm going to make this more uncomfortable.
Of course you are.
I ask, how much is the delay going to cost us? And you don't know.
Then I don't invent a number.
Good policy.
I can simply say, I don't have the exact figure with me, but I can check.
That's useful because you're not just saying, I don't know.
You're telling people what you don't know and what you're going to do about it. I don't have the exact figure with me, but I can check. Or, I'm not sure yet. I'll confirm that after the meeting.
What if you have an idea, but you're not confident enough to present it as a fact?
Then make that clear. You might say, my understanding is that the cost will stay within the current budget, but I'd like to confirm that.
So now everyone knows. This is your current understanding, not a confirmed number.
Right. That distinction matters.
There's another answer I really like. I'd rather check before I give you the wrong information.
Yes, especially when accuracy matters.
It sounds much better than guessing confidently and sending the whole meeting in the wrong direction.
Definitely. And you can make it very practical. I'd rather check before I give you the wrong information. I can confirm it this afternoon.
Now I know when I'll get the answer, too.
Sometimes, though, the problem isn't information. You just need a moment to think.
And silence suddenly feels very long when 8 people are looking at you.
It does. So give yourself a little time. Let me think about that for a second.
That sounds natural.
Or, that's a good question. Let me think.
Do you like, please give me a moment to formulate my response?
Only if you're being interviewed by a robot.
Fair.
Again, normal English works. Let me think about that for a second. Then, think.
What if you know part of the answer?
Then answer the part you know and identify the part you need to check. For example, the first phase is on schedule. I still need to check whether the supplier can meet the deadline for phase 2.
That pattern is useful.
Yes, because real workplace information is often incomplete. You don't have to choose between pretending you know everything and saying, I don't know. You can say, here's what I know. Here's what I still need to confirm.
Let me try another one. How many customers have approved the new terms?
I know we've received most of the responses, but I don't have the final number yet. I can check after the meeting.
Good. What caused the delay?
We're still looking into that. It seems to be related to the supplier, but I don't want to confirm the cause until we have all the information.
And can we finish this by Friday?
Now that one is interesting.
Why?
Because that isn't only a question about information. You may need to give an opinion. Maybe I think Friday is possible. Maybe I think it's risky. Maybe I disagree with the timeline completely.
So how would you answer?
If I think Friday is realistic, yes, I think Friday is doable. If I'm less certain, Friday might be possible, but I need to check one thing with the team first. And if I see a problem, Friday may be difficult because we're still waiting for the final data.
Now we're doing more than giving an update.
Now I'm bringing my judgment into the discussion. And that's where meetings become more interesting. Because sooner or later, someone is going to say something you agree with.
Or something you absolutely do not agree with.
So what do you say then?
Let's start with the easy one. I say, I think we should keep the current deadline. And you agree.
Then I can just say, I agree.
That's it?
That can be it.
No, I am entirely in agreement with your proposed course of action.
Not before lunch.
Good.
But if I want to show why I agree, I can add one short reason. I agree. Changing the deadline now would create more confusion. Or, that makes sense. We already have everything we need.
I like that makes sense.
So do I. It sounds natural and works in a lot of professional conversations.
Now let's make it more realistic. I say, I think we should keep the current deadline. You agree with the goal, but not completely with the plan.
Then I might say, I agree that we should avoid another delay, but I'm not sure Friday is realistic.
That lets you agree with the goal without agreeing with the whole plan. That's much more precise than pretending you either completely agree or completely disagree.
Now, suppose I don't agree with you.
This should be fun.
You say, we should launch on Friday even if the testing isn't completely finished. I might respond, I see it a little differently.
That tells me disagreement is coming, but it doesn't sound aggressive.
Right. Then I explain, I see it a little differently. I think launching before the testing is complete creates too much risk.
Another option?
I'm not sure that would work in this case.
And again, the important part comes after it.
Exactly. I'm not sure that would work in this case. We still have two major issues to resolve.
What if I don't want to say directly that I disagree? I just want to raise a problem.
Then, my main concern is extremely useful.
For example?
My main concern is the timing.
And then explain why.
My main concern is the timing. We only have 3 working days left.
I like that because it keeps the focus on the issue rather than the person who suggested the idea.
You're not saying your idea is bad. You're saying, here's the problem I think we need to consider.
Would you change the tone with a manager?
Sometimes I might soften it slightly. I can see why we'd want to move quickly. My concern is that we may not have enough time to test everything properly. With a close colleague, I could be more direct. I'm not sure about Friday. I think it's too tight.
Same concern, different relationship. Okay, I've suggested Friday. You've raised the timing problem. Now what?
This is where a good meeting participant does something very useful. Don't stop at the problem if you have another option.
So instead of Friday won't work,
You might say, Friday may be difficult. Could we aim for Monday instead?
Problem plus alternative.
Or what if we launch the first part on Friday and move the second part to next week?
What if we is one of those very simple expressions that does a lot of work?
It does. And you can build on someone else's idea instead of replacing it. If you say, maybe we should email customers, I could answer, that could work. What if we also add the information to the website?
So the meeting moves from one idea to a better combined option. But now I'm going to push back.
Go ahead.
You say, what if we move the deadline to Monday? And I say, I don't think we can. The client needs the final version on Friday.
Now I have new information.
What do you do?
Maybe I change my position. In that case, Monday won't work.
That's refreshingly simple.
Or, okay, that changes things. Then I might suggest something else. Could we reduce the scope and still deliver the most important parts on Friday?
That's a realistic meeting move.
Yes.
And if new information changes your view, you can say that clearly. Okay, that changes things. Or that addresses my concern.
You don't need to defend your first idea after the situation has changed.
So far,
this is quite manageable. One person speaks, another person responds. You have enough space to think.
But meetings aren't always that polite.
No. Sometimes 3 people start talking. Someone interrupts you. The conversation moves away from the original question. Someone brings up something from 20 minutes ago.
And you're trying to remember whether anyone has actually answered the question you started with.
That's when you need a different kind of meeting English. Not just language for your opinion.
But language for managing the conversation itself.
How do you finish your point if someone interrupts? How do you let someone else speak? How do you return to an earlier point? And how do you bring a discussion back when it starts going in the wrong direction?
That's where we're going next.
All right, let's say you're making a point. You're halfway through your sentence,
And I start talking.
which you would never do.
Never.
Of course. But it happens all the time in meetings. Sometimes people interrupt because they disagree. Sometimes they're excited. Sometimes there's a slight delay online and 2 people start speaking at exactly the same time.
So what do you do?
Well, first decide whether you actually need to finish your point. Sometimes the easiest thing is just to let the other person go.
Go ahead.
Or, sorry, you go first.
I use both of those.
Me too. And if we start at the same time, I might say, go ahead, Mark. I'll come back to my point.
That sounds natural. And now everyone knows you still have something to say.
Right. I haven't lost my turn completely.
But what if you really do need to finish? Maybe I've interrupted you right before the most important part.
Then I might say, sorry, let me just finish this point.
Direct, but not aggressive.
Or, can I just finish this thought? And then keep it short.
That last part matters.
Very much. If you say, let me just finish this point, and then speak for another 6 minutes,
You may lose the support of the room.
quite quickly.
There's another thing that happens in fast meetings. You want to respond to something someone said 2 minutes ago, but the conversation has already moved.
Then tell people where you're going. Can I come back to something Mark said earlier?
That's useful.
Or, I'd like to go back to the point about the deadline for a moment.
Now I know why you're taking us backwards.
You're not randomly changing the subject. You're returning to something that still matters.
And what if the whole discussion is moving away from the original question?
The meeting that starts with, can we approve the budget? And 20 minutes later, everyone is discussing the office coffee machine.
It was an important coffee machine.
I'm sure it was. But sometimes someone needs to bring the discussion back. You could say, can we come back to the budget for a moment?
Very simple.
Or maybe we can come back to that later. I think we still need to decide on the budget.
I like that one because you're not saying the other topic is unimportant.
Right. You're saying not now.
Would you ever say, we're getting off topic?
Yes, but I'd often make it softer. Maybe we can come back to that later. I think we still need to decide on the budget.
Clear, but not dismissive. Here's one I find difficult even as a native speaker. 2 people have been talking for a while. I want to ask a question, but I don't want to interrupt the flow.
I'd probably wait for a natural pause and say, can I ask a quick question here?
Or, before we move on, can I check one thing?
Yes. That second one is especially useful if the discussion is about to leave a topic. Before we move on, can I check one thing? Then ask your question.
Now, imagine we've been doing all of this for 30 minutes. People have asked questions, we've disagreed, we've changed a few ideas, we've gone backwards twice, we've come back to the topic.
And everyone is starting to look at the clock.
But there's one small problem.
Nobody knows what we've actually decided.
A lot of meetings contain plenty of conversation,
But not necessarily a decision.
so now the English needs to do another job.
It needs to turn discussion into something clear.
Let's say we've been discussing 2 options. Option A is cheaper.
Option B is faster. We've talked about both. How do we move forward?
Sometimes the most useful question is also the most obvious. So, what are we deciding?
I like that.
So do I. Or, do we have a decision on this?
And if you think the group has already agreed?
Then check it. It sounds like we're going with option B. Is everyone okay with that?
Or so, are we agreed on option B?
Exactly. Those questions turn a general feeling of agreement into something explicit.
Because there's a dangerous meeting sentence.
Which one?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Ah.
5 people say, yeah, sounds good. Then everyone leaves with a different idea of what that was.
Very true. So make the decision specific. Instead of, okay, sounds good, say, so we're going with option B and keeping the Friday deadline, correct?
Now there's much less room for confusion.
Sometimes, though, there isn't a decision yet.
Then say that too.
I don't think we've reached a decision yet.
That's quite direct.
But useful. Or it sounds like we still need to agree on the timeline.
I like that. It identifies what is still open.
Maybe we agree on the solution, but not the timing. Maybe we agree on the goal, but not the budget. Maybe we can't decide because we're missing information.
That last one happens a lot.
It does. So you might ask, do we have enough information to make a decision today?
Or do we need anyone else's input before we decide?
Maybe legal needs to review something. Maybe finance needs to confirm the budget. Maybe the customer needs to approve a change.
In that case, forcing a decision in the meeting may not actually help.
A useful outcome could be, we can't make the final decision today. Let's get finance's input and come back to this tomorrow.
That is still progress.
Absolutely. A meeting doesn't always need to end with a final yes or no, but it should be clear what happens next.
Suppose we do reach a decision, but one person has been quiet. Would you check with them?
If their agreement matters, yes. For example, Sarah, are you comfortable with that approach?
Or does that work from your side?
That one is very useful when different teams are involved. Does that work from your side? Maybe marketing agrees, but operations sees a problem. Maybe finance agrees, but IT can't support the timeline.
So, agreement from the room isn't always the same as agreement from everyone affected. And what if you're the person who isn't comfortable? Everyone else seems ready to move on.
Then this may be your last chance to raise the issue clearly. You could say, before we decide, can I raise one concern?
That's useful.
Then keep the concern focused. Before we decide, can I raise one concern? We still haven't confirmed whether the supplier can meet that date.
You're not reopening the entire meeting.
You're identifying one unresolved point that could affect the decision.
And if the answer resolves your concern?
Then say so. That answers my question. That addresses my concern. Or simply, okay, I'm comfortable with that.
Which tells the group they can move forward.
Yes! Meeting language isn't only about putting new ideas into the room. Sometimes you need to tell people, this issue is resolved for me.
All right. Let's say we finally have the decision. We're going with option B. We're keeping the Friday deadline. Everyone agrees. Meeting finished?
Not yet.
Of course not.
Because now I have 3 questions. Who is doing what? When are they doing it? And what happens after that?
Ah, the part where a decision becomes actual work.
Exactly. Because we've decided to update the proposal is not the same as Mark will update the proposal and send the new version by Thursday afternoon.
Very different.
And this is where meetings often fail quietly. Everyone leaves thinking the conversation was productive.
And then nobody does anything because everybody thought somebody else was doing it.
So before
before you leave the meeting, you need to know how to make responsibility, deadline, and next step clear.
And that's what we'll do next.
So we've made the decision. Now we need to make sure something actually happens after the meeting.
And the first question is simple. Who's doing what?
If it isn't clear, you can ask, who's taking the lead on this?
Or something more specific. Who's going to follow up with the client? Who's updating the report? Who's checking this with finance?
Those are very direct questions.
They should be. At this point in the meeting, clarity is more useful than complicated language.
And if I'm volunteering?
You can simply say, I can take care of that.
Easy.
Or, I can follow up with the client. I'll update the report. I can check that with finance.
What about, I'll take that?
Yes, especially when the task is already clear. For example, someone needs to send the revised schedule. I'll take that.
That sounds natural.
But knowing the owner isn't enough.
We need a deadline.
Right. You can ask, when do we need this by?
Or, when would you like this completed?
Yes. And if you think you already know, just to confirm, you need this by Friday?
There's our clarification language again.
And that's important. The language we learned earlier doesn't disappear when we move to another part of the meeting. You keep using it for different jobs.
Let's say the deadline is fine. What would you say?
I'll send the revised version by Thursday afternoon.
Clear owner, clear action, clear deadline.
Or I'll speak to the supplier today and update everyone tomorrow morning.
That gives us another useful piece of information. Not only what you're going to do,
But when everyone will hear from you again.
Now, suppose the deadline isn't fine. Your manager says, "Can you get this to me by Friday?" And you know Friday is unrealistic.
Then this is where the language from earlier comes back again. I could say, Friday may be difficult because I'm still waiting for the final figures. Could I get this to you on Monday instead?
Concern, reason, alternative.
We use that structure when discussing ideas. Now we're using it to negotiate a deadline.
Which is much more useful than learning a completely new set of expressions for every part of a meeting.
Yes, real conversations recycle useful language. The situation changes, the function of the language stays useful.
what if Monday is too late?
Then we negotiate. You might say, I can send you a draft on Friday and the final version on Monday.
That sounds like an actual workplace conversation.
Because that's often what happens. It isn't always yes or no. Sometimes the useful answer is, here's what I can do.
Let me try another one. We need someone to review the numbers before tomorrow's client call.
I can do that. Send them to me this afternoon, and I'll review them before the end of the day.
And if you can't?
I won't have time today, but I can look at them first thing tomorrow morning.
Again, not just I can't.
Right. If possible, give the meeting somewhere to go.
There's another question I think is important before everyone leaves. We know what I'm doing. We know what you're doing. But what happens after that?
You might ask, what's the next step after that?
Or, once we have the approval, what happens next?
Yes! Maybe the answer is, once finance approves the budget, we'll send the proposal to the client.
Now I can see the sequence.
And if another meeting is needed, shall we meet again on Thursday to review the final version?
Or, let's check in again once we have the client's feedback.
This is also a good moment to summarize the actions if you're leading the meeting.
How would you do that without giving everyone another meeting inside the meeting?
Keep it short. So, just to recap the next steps, I'll update the proposal, Mark will confirm the numbers with finance, and we'll send the final version to the client on Friday. And then, check. Is everyone clear on what they need to do?
Or maybe, have I missed anything?
Yes! That gives people one last chance to correct something.
And if you're not leading the meeting?
You can still confirm your own action. So I'll send you the revised numbers by 3 tomorrow.
Or, just to confirm, I'm contacting the supplier and Mark is updating the schedule.
You don't need to control the meeting to make your own responsibility clear.
I think this is where a lot of business English becomes surprisingly simple.
What do you mean?
Well, look at what we've actually been doing. Who's doing this? When do we need it? I'll take care of that. Could I send it on Monday instead? What happens next?
True. None of those sentences are particularly advanced.
But if you can use them at the right moment, you're actually participating in the meeting.
And that's the point. You don't need to sound impressive. You need to help the conversation move forward.
So we've made the decision, everyone knows what they need to do, and the deadlines are clear. At this point, the meeting is basically finished. But there's still one small thing we need to do. Actually bring it to a close.
And fortunately, this part doesn't need complicated English. If you're leading the meeting, you can simply say, "Okay, I think that covers everything for today." Or, "I think we've covered everything we needed to discuss." Both make it clear that the discussion is finished and you're ready to close the meeting.
Then you can finish with something as simple as, "Thanks, everyone," or "Thanks for your time." And if there's something you need to do after the meeting, this is also a natural time to mention it.
For example, you might say, "I'll send a summary after the meeting," or "I'll follow up with the updated schedule this afternoon." That way, everyone leaves knowing not only that the meeting is over, but also what they can expect from you next.
And in an online meeting, the ending can be even simpler. You might hear, "Thanks, everyone. Have a good rest of the day." "Thanks. Speak to you later." Or "See you next week." You don't need a special formal expression just because it's a business meeting.
So now we've gone all the way from joining the meeting to taking part in the discussion, asking questions, giving your opinion, handling disagreement, making a decision, and confirming what happens next. But up to this point, we've mostly heard those skills in shorter examples.
Now let's put them together and hear what they sound like inside complete workplace conversations. Don't try to memorize every sentence. Instead, listen to what each person is trying to do with their English and how one response naturally leads to the next.
We'll start with a simple team update, then move into a discussion where the two people don't completely agree, and finally, a meeting where they need to reach a decision and leave with clear next steps.
Let's start with the team update.
Now, let's put the language together in 3 workplace conversations.
Don't try to memorize every sentence. Listen to what each person is trying to do. Give an update, clarify something, raise a concern, make a decision, or agree on what happens next.
Let's start with a weekly team update. Listen to how a simple update leads to a clear next step.
Morning, Mark. Shall we get started?
Sure.
Let's quickly go through the main updates. Where are we with the customer survey?
We've received most of the responses. I'm still waiting for feedback from 2 of the regional teams.
Do you think we'll have everything by Friday?
Friday should be fine, but I'd rather confirm with the teams before I promise that.
Okay. When can you check?
I'll contact them this morning and update you by 3 this afternoon.
Okay. And what about the summary report?
The first draft is finished. I'm waiting for the final survey numbers before I complete the recommendations.
Just to clarify, are the recommendations the only part still missing?
Yes, everything else is ready.
So once the final responses come in, you'll finish the recommendations and send me the report?
If we get the responses today, I can send you the full report tomorrow afternoon.
That works for me.
Anything else you need from my side?
No, I think that covers it.
All right.
Notice how simple that exchange was. The update led naturally to a clarification, a deadline, and a next step.
Now let's try a different meeting. This time, the 2 people don't completely agree on the plan.
Listen to how the discussion changes as new information comes in.
Okay, we need to decide when to release the new customer portal. I think we should keep the Friday launch.
I'm not sure Friday is realistic. We still have 2 issues from testing that haven't been resolved.
The technical team thinks they can fix those by Thursday.
I understand that. My concern is that we'd have almost no time to test the fixes before launch.
That's true, but if we move the launch again, we'll need to inform all the customers who've already received the Friday date.
What if we keep Friday for a smaller group of customers and move the full launch to Monday?
That could work. How many customers are you thinking?
Maybe 10% to start with. That would give us some real usage on Friday without putting the whole customer base on the new system.
I like the idea, but I'd want the technical team to confirm they can support it.
Agreed. Could we check with them today?
Yes, I can speak to Daniel after this meeting.
And if they're comfortable with the smaller launch?
Then I'd support Friday for the first group and Monday for everyone else.
That addresses my concern.
Okay, so we haven't made the final decision yet. I'll check with Daniel today and we'll confirm the launch plan once we have his input.
Sounds good.
Notice what happened there. They disagreed, but the conversation didn't stop at the disagreement.
The concern led to another option, and new information changed what they were ready to decide.
Now let's put even more of the language together.
In this final conversation, the team needs to leave with a decision, clear responsibilities, and a deadline.
Okay, before we finish, we still need to decide how we're handling next week's client presentation.
I think we should keep the current version and just update the financial section.
Can I add something here? I think the timeline slide needs another look too. The dates have changed since the last client meeting.
You're right, I'd forgotten about that. Do we have the new dates?
I have most of them, but I'm still waiting for confirmation on the final testing date.
Who can confirm that?
The project team. I can check with them this afternoon.
My only concern is timing. The client presentation is Tuesday morning.
I think we still have enough time. If I get the testing date today, I can update the timeline tomorrow morning.
And I can finish the financial section tomorrow afternoon.
Should we have someone review the full presentation before we send it?
Yes. Could Sarah review it on Monday?
I'm not sure about her availability.
Then we should probably give her some notice.
What if we send it to her tomorrow afternoon and ask her to review it by Monday lunchtime?
That should give her enough time. Before we decide, though, can I check one thing? Are we changing anything else in the presentation?
No, I think we should keep the rest as it is.
Okay, so just to confirm, you'll get the final testing date and update the timeline tomorrow morning?
Right.
I'll update the financial section tomorrow afternoon. Then we'll send the full presentation to Sarah for review.
And ask her to send any comments by Monday lunchtime.
Then we'll make the final changes Monday afternoon and use that version for Tuesday's client meeting.
I'll follow up with the project team as soon as we finish here.
I think that covers everything.
All right. Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Elena.
And that's what it sounds like when several meeting skills start working together.
The English wasn't complicated, but every sentence had a job.
And that's the key idea from today. Instead of asking, what impressive sentence should I say? Ask, what does my English need to do right now?
Maybe you need to join the conversation, clarify one point, raise a concern, suggest an option, or make the next step clear.
Choose a few expressions you actually need at work and start using them until they feel natural.
Thanks for spending this time with us. And we hope your next English meeting feels a little easier to take part in.
Thanks for watching Business English for Success.
We'll see you in the next lesson.
Bye for now.